Allora la soluzione non è prendere gli africani e spostarli in Europa, la soluzione è liberare l'Africa da certi europei che la sfruttano e consentire a queste persone di vivere di quello che hanno.
And sadly, nothing will change as long as Africa presents itself as a fertile ground for colonial exploitation. Now, I don't believe everyone in the West is an evil colonialist waiting to exploit Africa because they are all inherently racist and white supremacists. No, I don't believe that nonsense. I mean, that's the kind of nonsense that those drunk on the Kool-Aid of critical race theory would think, say and conclude because, it somehow solidifies their status as perpetual victims. I don't think that is the case for Africa. I don't think Africa is some helpless continent, that are just doomed to be victims forever. Instead, I believe colonialism, especially economic colonialism, is a crime of opportunity. And Africa often provides the West with so much opportunity for colonial economic exploitation. And this fact isn't something that existed only in history, 40 or 50 years ago. This is a reality that is constantly ongoing in Africa through legal, manipulative, and often corrupt means. I mean, Africa, Europe, and American companies and governments always seem unable to resist the temptation of colonial exploitation that Africa constantly presents. And for me, a clear example of this is the economic relationship between France and the 14 francophone countries in Western and Central Africa. I mean, this exploitative relationship is not news to many of us in Africa. But for many in the West, it became obvious and a resurfacing narrative thanks to the Italian Prime Minister, Giorgia Meloni. She's a fierce critic of the French government and how its economic foreign policy in Africa is causing illegal migration of Africa into Europe. And here she is explaining this harsh reality once again.
Questo si chiama franco CFA. È la moneta coloniale che la Francia stampa per 14 nazioni africane alle quali applica il signoraggio e in forza delle quali sfrutta le risorse di questa nazione. Questo è un bambino che lavora in una miniera d'oro in Burkina Faso. Il Burkina Faso è una delle nazioni più povere del mondo. Per il Burkina Faso, che ha l'oro, la Francia stampa moneta coloniale. In cambio pretende che finiscano nelle casse del tesoro francese il 50% di tutto quello che il Burkina Faso esporta. L'oro che questo bambino si infila in un cunicolo per tirare fuori finisce per lo più nelle casse dello Stato francese. Allora la soluzione non è prendere gli africani e spostarli in Europa, la soluzione è liberare l'Africa da certi europei che la sfruttano e consentire a queste persone di vivere di quello che hanno.
Now, some people online have accused Meloni of, misrepresenting the complexities of this economic agreement. According to them, this agreement is mutually beneficial to every party involved. Some have even claimed that she's just flat out lying because she hates immigrants and is just, of course, a far-right bigot and the granddaughter of Mussolini. They always put in Mussolini there. Somehow, I don't know, whenever her name is brought up in the mainstream media, Mussolini just comes in. I wonder if that's her part of her ancestry or something. I don't get it. Now, I said to the party involved that the French government and African leaders, this agreement is in no way beneficial to people living under the economic condition it has created in Africa. The CFA monetary agreement puts the French treasury in possession of 70%. Guys, 70% of the annual foreign exchange of these 14 African countries. And in exchange, what do these countries get? A strong currency that means nothing to them because they can't regulate it or devalue it for the benefit of, international transaction. If you want to make international transaction, sometimes for it to be beneficial, you need to be able to devalue your currency. Ask China to explain it. They know how to do that very well. And on top of that, this agreement gives French companies in this country the first pick on their natural resources. And these resources are purchased at a cheaper rate compared to the international market price because, as I stated earlier, these countries have no control over their currency. And only upon permission from France can these African countries sell their natural resources on the international market. And these are not lies. This excessive control of a foreign country's economy in Africa by the French government, these are not lies. These are facts. And I encourage you to do your research on this matter. Don't just take my words for it. What the French government is doing to these African countries is terrible. And the rise of massive migration from Africa to Europe is a direct consequence of this economic policy. Now I can sit here and, speak my piece about how despicable the French government has been and how they literally owe their prosperity to these African countries. Mind you, this very fact was admitted by Jacques Chirac, right? Jacques Chirac, the former president of France. It's one thing, to talk about past colonialism when nations didn't know better than to exploit each other, even though I believe that's not the case. They saw an opportunity and they took advantage of it. And this is 2022, and obviously nothing has changed. And sadly, nothing will change as long as Africa presents itself as a fertile ground for colonial exploitation. China is already among us, and they are sowing colonial seeds that will blossom into gruesome exploitation in the near future. And our leaders are busy obliging them by collecting loans that they know they can't repay. The major problem of Africa, in my opinion, is the spineless, godless, cowardly leaders we have. Their cowardice, coupled with greed and corruption, is the reason Asia and Europe keeps exploiting us. These fools are willing and ready to sell out their country. Sometimes it even looks as if they are begging these other countries to come and buy us. See, there is no doubt that these colonial practices and this country that oppress African countries for economic gains are doing something horrible and utterly wicked, in my opinion. As in, this is just wicked. I don't think it even has to do with my opinion. Everyone who looks at this will say, this is terrible, this is bad, this is despicable. But it takes two to tango. There is no way in hell that any of this could ever occur if this foreign government can't find a willing, greedy, spineless African accomplice roaming in the corridors of power. That is why I said earlier that this is a crime of opportunity. And African leaders keep presenting that opportunity with their lack of vision, determination, patriotism, and immoral compass. They are twice as disgusting and treacherous as the French government. At least the French government is doing all this for the benefit of their people. That is why I look at their country. Things are going on well. I heard that they have one of the best welfare packages in the world. Look at Paris, a very wonderful city. But African leaders are doing this just to benefit themselves. Their people are suffering tremendously while these leaders and their family and friends are buying expensive properties in France and other Western countries. I mean, think about it. Just imagine the stupidity. You impoverish your country, then abandon it and build your empire in the West and benefit the very people exploiting you. I mean, you have to marvel at this level of abysmal stupidity. You just have to stand in awe of it. And you wonder why racists in the West think Africans are monkeys, right? You wonder why Africans don't command any respect on the global stage. And some idiots want to scream racism, right? But no. People have no choice but to treat you the way your representatives treat you. In this case, comparing African leaders to monkeys is actually an insult to the monkeys. And these are the political face of Africa to the rest of the world. This is the face. When it comes to leadership, these are the people that are portraying us to the rest of the world. So how do you think they are going to look at us? It's just heartbreaking. It's really just heartbreaking. But maybe I can see a glimmer of hope about what Meloni is doing and the immigration crisis in Europe. These European countries just have to do something about these migrants coming from Africa. It is a humanitarian crisis, and they just have to deal with it somehow. And I hope that perhaps, maybe, somehow they will come to the conclusion that leads to them compelling these African leaders to actually become leaders and realize that corruption in Africa would have a global impact that may not always translate to economic prosperity for the West. Maybe somehow they will come to that conclusion. Hopefully they'll realize that exploitation can lead to the uncertainty and insecurity that comes with having a bunch of illegal migrants docking on your shore every now and then. Because people are always going to keep coming. And if you turn them away, it will not give you a good look in the eye of the whole world. The whole world is watching you. Now you have to deal with these illegal migrants, with these refugees, these economic refugees that you have created. Maybe then you realize that you can't manipulate low IQ leaders, exploit their country, and not expect the chicken to come home to roost. Because that's what these Africans are doing. They are coming. They are coming. So hopefully, as always, the solution will probably come from the West, who are just 50% of the problem. But my worry is, if the West leave, there is Asia, there is China, and people don't have any moral compass at all. At least the Western government will always try to save face. But when it comes to China, those people don't try to save face. when they want to be draconian, they do it and they don't care. And these African leaders, if they are not sucking up to Europe or sucking up to America, they are willing and ready to suck up to China. And what are we going to do then? What are we going to do? All right, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. And if you enjoyed it, then hit that like button, share this video, subscribe to this channel, and ring that notification bell so you don't miss any of our subsequent videos. And as always, I want to know in the comments what you think about this whole neocolonialism that is happening in Africa, and what you think Africans can do to bring themselves out of this mess that their leaders constantly push them into. And by them, I mean us, I mean me. Let me know in the comments, and until the next video, peace.